Welcome back and thank you for joining me this morning. Now let's take a look at the stories impacting the region, and we head straight over to Armenia. As the country approaches its parliamentary elections scheduled for the 7th of June, the political contest between the incumbent leadership and the opposition has entered a more intense phase. There was a widely shared video showing Pashinyan engaged in a heated confrontation with a woman originally from the Karabakh region. Joining me now to unpack all of this is Professor Orkan Valiev, head of the Department of Kaiser University. Welcome to the program. Now, let's begin with the video that I just mentioned, which went viral last week, showing Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan in a heated confrontation and his subsequent decision to now invite the woman back to apologize for it publicly. Can you explain what took place? Why was that so key? What does that tell us about Pashinyan's political instincts, and does it reveal anything substantial about the broader mood of the electorate as the country approaches the elections?
Okay, well, first of all, thanks for the kind invitation. As we know, as you mentioned, Armenia will have the critical, maybe just historical, the parliamentary election in the June 7th of June in this year, and will define the future of Armenia. So another thing that you mentioned, in your introduction, that the Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan, who just started the campaign and tried to meet with with people in different platforms, places, including metro station and so on. So it seems that there is a growing the potential, the radical nationalist, the discourse, specifically from those people who left the Karabakh after the Second Karabakh War, despite Azerbaijan introduced the question of citizenship, equal citizenship. So. And the Prime Minister, in his speech, mentioned that his government, since 2018, put his country out of the predominant, the disastrous path, which is, I think, critical critical point that will define the future of the election on June, because. As another statements that came from the foreign minister, Mirzian, that he said that there is a growing the opposition party or parties that could have sparked the war again. So I think both the Pashinyan and the Mirzian tried to put attention that we started to live in peace and to work in peace since the last August. The Washington summit, if I'm not mistaken, right after the Washington the summit, the Pashinyan, in an interview with American TV, he mentioned that we don't know to live in peace, to work in peace. This is a historical the moment for both countries, including the Armenia as well, that will make the region transit the region that will bring prosperity as well. For example, another issue is that. I think there is the growing threat to Armenian society. There is a war in Iran, so there is another conflict. So this is critical, the important for the South Caucasus, for Azerbaijan and Armenia, that they should keep the peace that they achieved in the last August. The President Aliyev mentioned repeatedly. So Azerbaijan insists to keep its position. If you remember, the President Aliyev says that the promise that we did here, neither Armenia nor Azerbaijan will leave this the promise that we did in the Washington summit. So therefore, I think the Armenian the government is being to face the radical nationalism, so that if they will be able to afford this the rising radical nationalism. So the future for the Armenian, the community, Armenian society will be the better.
That's really interesting and very in-depth. So thank you very much for your answer on that one. So what does this then? Pashinyan has also said that his government has been leading the country out of a predetermined disastrous past since 2018. How critical is this framing, do you think, and how relevant is this in shaping a political narrative ahead of the elections?
Yes, there was, I think there is as well, but there was the irredentist, radical nationalist narrative in politics in the past, in the last 3 decades in Armenia, that has radical ambitions, not just over the territory of Azerbaijan, sorry, Turkey as well, for example, sometimes in Georgia as well. So the Pashinyan and including the Mirzoyan try to explain that we remove the radical nationalist ambitions from Armenian politics that will define the future of Armenia and will bring the prosperity for our nation. So therefore, for example, symbolically, the Pashinyan giving the gift to children and young people, the map of Armenia, which is recognized by the international law. I think he's trying to give the good message to the society that, okay, we are living in different times, so we have to keep our just territory, which is recognized by the international law, and also we have to the focus the keeping the peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan, which has been achieved in the last August in DC. So I think this is the critical point that you mentioned, including the Foreign Minister Mirzoyan. So, and it seems that yes, Armenian society, the nation, will have to make the decisive decision that the Pashinyan's government did in DC last year. So whether they will want peace or not, which is the critical because especially in these times. The keeping peace is much more important than ever because there is a regional and global conflict surrounding the region. So therefore, the South Caucasus, the countries will have to keep the peace among themselves, including Azerbaijan and Armenia. So Azerbaijan has been working on this issue. Yeah. In terms of different issues. So now is it is time for Armenia. So we will see what will happen.
No, definitely we'll be watching very closely, obviously because of its ties to Azerbaijan and the peace agreement as well that was signed last year. But how significant then is the return of the former president, Robert Koshayan, into the political fray? Is he genuinely electable, do you think? Do you think that he has some kind of backing in all of this?
From my perspective, the people who, because let me remind you, the delegation of both countries sat down and met different times in both countries. So this is another step that we shouldn't forget it. So I don't think that the former president will bring some prosperity. For example, let's say that this situation, status quo in the region has dramatically changed. Let's see. Russia was over there and dominated the situation in the South Caucasus, but now Russia is dealing with different issues. In Ukraine, the main issue in its foreign policy, for example. So, of course, Russia is here as a neighboring country and so on. But, however, the situation is totally different. The Azerbaijan's situation is totally different. So, the war is in Iran, so the war in Ukraine. So, in that sense, I don't think that the former president will make some sense for the future of Armenian nation. This is just from my perspective of the Armenian the society, of course. This is just nonsense because if, and also let me repeat again, if the Armenian society, Armenian nation will be able to eliminate this radical and irredentic nationalism, the future for the Armenian nation will be better because I think this is a critical issue before the signing of the final the peace agreement between Azerbaijan and Armenia. So if they will do that, if they will be able to pass this, the critical moment, so the future will be better, not just for the Armenia, for the entire region, because the conflict is the main, just the issue for the future of the region. Imagine the implementation of the corridor through the Armenia to the Nakhchivan, and so will bring the different opportunities that we repeatedly mentioned in the broadcast that will eventually include different the opportunities. So despite the war in Iran. So because there is another, the economic issue, the trade issue.
Yes, and given, I'm just going to turn slightly over to another actor in all of this. Given his long-standing ties to Russia, how might Moscow position itself in relation to his candidacy?
Of course, it seems that the Moscow doesn't happy with let's say the Pashinyan government. But the question is, another question is that So what is the position of Russia in the region, in Armenia? Because the Ukrainian issue is a great issue. So Armenia, so Russia lost many of its arsenals and the soldiers and so on, and the issues, especially economy and so on. So I don't think that the Armenia, so Russia will try to intervene directly like in the past. Specifically, we shouldn't forget the Armenian, so the U.S. engagement, Trump administration engagement to the process through the Trump road, Trump road. So despite the war in Iran, so the process is over there. We shouldn't, miss the process. So the process includes different actors. So therefore, I don't think that Russia will have the domination like in the past.
I see. So very different from how things were used to be done. Well, thank you so much, Professor Valiev, for joining me this morning for your insights. It's been very, very helpful. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.